Hi friends, welcome back to Art Tutorials. This is a continuation part 2 of full stack developer interview questions. If you haven't checked out the part 1, I recommend you to kindly check it out so you get all the questions on full stack developer. During the course of this tutorial, do you have any questions, any doubts? Please drop them in the comment section. I'll be happy to help you for free. Before we get started, I request you to kindly subscribe to my channel to keep supporting and encouraging me. Now let's get started with full stack developer interview questions part 2. So the first question is, how did you debug a difficult program in any of your previous projects or jobs? So debugging is an extraordinary talent in full stack developers. As an individual, we can debug a difficult program with software skills. However, before debugging, analyzing the problem is very important. Understanding why it led to such a problem will always help you avoid those pitfalls in the next project. Also, joining the team to debug issues can be a great way to overcome such issues. So here you can talk about one of your recent projects where you had to debug a certain feature and how you tackled it. So the interviewer here wants to really know what kind of problems you ran into and what kind of analytical skills did you use to overcome them. So it's very important that you cover this question really well. If your career has there been a time when you made a big mistake in programming, and how did you compensate it later? So see, mistakes, if you say you never made a mistake, it would be a lie. So instead, you should always say yes, there was an issue that happened, but always tell the mistake which has not cost a big amount of revenue or users to the company. So you can say that, there was a mistake where the content was not correctly spelled or something like that. So which shows that, okay, it was a minor issue. But then again, you are justifying that you corrected it later. So if it requires advanced technical skills, also you can mention that there was, you were able to debug it and how did you debug it? So you can always mention I referred it in logs, I checked it in console, etc. Now, the next question is what is multi-threading and how is it used? So this is a question which is almost asked for all full stack developer roles. Now, multi-threading is a process of improving the performance of CPU. It is done by executing multiple processes or threads that can be supported by the operating system. So you can talk about like a messaging system or queue that you developed, and you talk about how you optimized it by having multiple threads to improve the process, and you can also talk about how you made the system efficient. What are your design patterns? So a question that is also asked often is what are design patterns? How did you use them? So you can talk about different design patterns depending upon your area of expertise. You can talk about design patterns in UI design. You can talk about database design. You can talk about API design. So, so you need to understand that you have to talk about some design pattern. So I recommend you that you get it thoroughly. This question you have to ready so that you can crack the interview. Here they are asking you your area of specialization in where you have used design patterns. What is your current project that you're working on? So this is the first question they ask you. So remember, this will set the tone for your interview of what questions they should ask. So the way you should say it is you talk about the area that you are really strong in, either UI or backend, database, QA, testing, and then you talk about the project. Importantly, don't tell what the project is. Tell about the project, but also importantly, tell what your role is, what your jobs and responsibility are. So they expect you to tell about how did you design some components, how did you write services, how did you write APIs. That is what they want to understand. They don't want to understand your project. They want to understand what you did in the project. So it's very important. What is referential transparency? So referential transparency is an aspect of functional programming. It is used to replace expression in a program without actually changing the final result of the program. Explain about a website that you created and how did you do it. So they expect um, full stack developers to have developed an entire project end to end. So this question that you're asked is mainly to understand that. They will ask you what you did, how you did, talk about the tools that you use, talk about the languages, talk about the frameworks that you used, and also talk about the challenges in terms of dealing with the project, business team, multiple team members, QA, etc. So these questions you should prepare because they are bound to ask, and they by this they will know whether have you worked or not. What is an application server? So an application server allows both the creation of web applications and also use it as a server environment to launch the application. What is the core difference between REST and GraphQL? So the most fundamental difference is in the way the resources are handled in retrieving the resource. So the endpoint might look different. In REST, you have the same, you need to have a data contract. Whereas in GraphQL, you can just dynamically create the contract. So that's the most differentiating feature, I would say. If you haven't worked on GraphQL, just explain about the REST API calls, and that should be fine. Now, this is another question they ask, which is, let's say I have an API. So how do you prevent it from public access? How do you prevent a bot from scrapping a publicly accessible API? So considering that the data in the API is publicly accessible, so it's you can prevent it using you can prevent data scrapping, which is by writing a bot or something. So you can have something like captchas. You can basically use rate limit. You can have IPs that you need to set. There are multiple techniques, so you can talk about any of these, and that should be good. All right. So the next, okay. So that brings us to the end of part two questions on full stack developer role. If you haven't checked out our part one, please do so. If you have any questions, queries, comments, please drop them in the comment section. I'll be happy to help you for free. Friends, my request is to please subscribe to my channel to keep supporting and encouraging me. Thank you so much for joining in today's episode. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, take care.